give you a bit of context about today's story, I'm going to tell you a little about this mysterious island. A cursed island for many, the famous and abandoned Flores Island in Uruguay. This place was between 1869 and 1935 a mandatory stop that all ships carrying immigrants, mainly from Italy and Spain, had to make. Let's clarify that it was a time when yellow fever and cholera were a real risk. Uruguay had precisely had a very high mortality rate due to yellow fever in 1857. That's why all immigrants who arrived had to make a mandatory stop on this island for a supposed health check. Not only the ships that were destined for Uruguay, but also for Buenos Aires, Argentina. This island is divided into three parts. In the first sector, there was an immigrant hotel where the most illustrious or wealthiest people, officials, and the command stayed. In the second sector was the lazaretto, where infectious patients were housed. The sad reality of this time was that if you were already in that sector, it was unlikely you would leave the island. Very close by was the cemetery, and in the last sector of the island was the doctor's house and the crematorium. Conditions at one point were such, apparently critical, as the number of sick people was enormous. Many sick people with almost no medical assistance died without anyone finding out. The bodies of the people who died were taken to the crematorium. Different stories tell of times when people screamed in pain inside the oven. This was because they were unconscious and had been taken for dead. And obviously it was too late to get them out of there, so they died in the worst possible way. As many of those who arrived were undocumented, a large part of the people who passed through there were never identified. So, in the cemetery, there are few graves that have a name. By around 1904, the leper colony was no longer used as such and was used as a prison where most of those who were there were political prisoners. So, I think it's more than clear that this island for many years was a nest of pain and death. Many people arrived there with the hope of a better life, and what they got after a long journey over the ocean was a horrible and unthinkable end. People of all ages passed through here, and it is said that the souls that were trapped are still today looking for how to get off the island of flowers. The story I'm going to tell you today is about the real experience of Enzo, who was a lighthouse keeper on the island in the year 2018. I'm going to tell you what he saw, what he felt, and what happened once he left the lighthouse. I can assure you that it's something incredible, and when you hear the end of the story, you'll be left speechless. Enzo grew up in Maldonado, a department of Montevideo, Uruguay. From a very young age, he was fascinated by everything related to the sea. It was because of this passion that when he came of age, he studied in the Navy and was finally able to graduate as a sailor. At the beginning of 2018, while in Fortaleza del Cerro in Montevideo, he had the opportunity to take a lighthouse keeper course. After finishing this course, they sent him to fill in at the Isla de Flores, as the current lighthouse keeper had taken leave for a personal matter. Enzo decided to accept this temporary position and showed up a day before taking his post, mainly to clear up any doubts and understand how the place operates. Corporal Rodriguez was the lighthouse keeper at that time, about to be replaced. This man explained to him how the lighthouse worked, its technical issues. He showed him the radio equipment and the generator equipment, but he also clarified and made a series of somewhat striking recommendations for Enzo. These instructions, according to Corporal Rodriguez, had to be followed exactly as he was teaching them, for his own good, and he could not neglect any detail. Enzo had no doubt that the man was serious, and decided to take into account all the recommendations, and assured that he was going to heed them. He knew very well, like everyone who knows this island, that it is a place full of energies of all kinds. The Cape told him that it was getting dark around 6:30 and he had to be inside the lighthouse house and close everything at that time. Once locked in, he had to sprinkle salt on the door and windows and also make 3 crosses with yerba mate in 3 plates and leave them on the dining table of the lighthouse. After doing this, he had to leave the bed unmade and go up to the top of the lighthouse, about 4 floors, and right on the landing of the stairs there was a cot. He clarified that this was going to be his bed and the only place where he would be until the next morning. It was very important not to go down during the night for anything in the world. That afternoon, Enzo accepted and carried out all the given instructions without hesitation. At 6:30, they went up to turn on the light and did not go down until the following day. That night, around 9, they began to hear voices and knocks at the bottom, on the doors, on the windows. The corporal assured him it was normal to hear the same thing most nights. Enzo was a bit uncomfortable, and that's why the corporal told him that if he didn't believe, to glance when the lighthouse illuminates the terrace of the old hotel. Upon looking, he could clearly see that the hotel's esplanade and its terrace were full of people, sitting, walking, many motionless as if they were on pause. The man explained to him that all those people, or rather those souls, he believes they still don't know they're dead. They're looking for a way out, an answer, help. Many people dressed in period costumes, children running. It was something amazing and chilling at the same time. Those people had arrived on a ship, possibly with symptoms, and they never left the island. Corporal Rodriguez assured him not to worry, that as long as he followed those recommendations, the place was safe. The noises and voices would always be felt, but he never had to do anything and stay in that cot next to the light until the next day. This man told him something that did worry him a bit. There's a little girl who first appears to him in dreams and then, little by little, even appeared to him inside the lighthouse, and he could see her. That little girl said her name was Erika, that she was Spanish and that she had been left there to take care of the lighthouse man. Cabo Rodriguez told him that she wasn't bad, but he did notice that the more one thinks about her or shows interest, the more she appears and her presence becomes stronger. Enzo really didn't want to stay after that night, especially not alone, but he had already accepted that position and knew very well that if he disobeyed and returned to port, he would be arrested. So he made the decision to, despite the fear, stay in charge of the lighthouse for the next 20 days, promising himself to do exactly what the outgoing lighthouse keeper said. The first 4 nights were similar to the first, but it was on the 5th that this girl, Erika, appeared to him in a dream. She just looked at him and told him that she was there to protect him. A few nights later, he woke up and could see her, as the corporal told him, in a corner, standing, watching him. She told him at one point that she was taking care of him, and that's when Enzo made a mistake talking to her. He said he was fine and thanked her for caring for him. It was from there that a kind of connection arose between them. They even had talks where the young girl revealed her identity to him. She had come on a boat from Spain, along with her parents and little brother. Her mother began having a fever while on the boat. They arrived at the island, and it was here where the whole family got sick. Her father and mother died first, then shortly after, it was her little brother's turn. Erika, now alone and sick too, died in total solitude in a hospital full of terminally ill patients. Enzo gradually lost his fear of Erika, and it was common for him to show up around 2 in the morning, and the 2 of them would talk. In one of those strange chats, almost halfway through the stay, the girl told Enzo that all those people down there need help. They need a light to illuminate and guide them. The lighthouse is showing them the sea, and that's where they don't want to return. It was after this talk that he came up with the idea to make a kind of candle to be able to illuminate and help all those souls to get out of there. The next day, Enzo checked in the lighthouse's storage and found many tallow candles. He had the idea to melt them all in a can and with a wick make a kind of giant candle. That afternoon, he approached the hotel ruins, placed a large candle at the entrance and lit it. He went back to the lighthouse hoping that it might be of help. What he didn't imagine is that it would cause the opposite. The next day too, he went to see the hotel and finds this crushed candy and among the dirt on the floor, insults and phrases threatening him, saying he was going to die, could be read. That same night, the activity was worse than ever. Not only were the usual knocks heard, but now the voices were louder, and the screams were heartbreaking. The few remaining days were becoming unbearable. 5 nights remained to finish the substitution. He decided that afternoon to turn on the lighthouse, get on the boat he had for moving around, and move a few miles away from the island, anchor, and stay there all night. This was the only way he found to have a little peace and to escape from all that energy that was getting worse every night. He repeated this until he was replaced by the new lighthouse keeper. He said there was no news as they wouldn't believe him. He returned to his post in Fortaleza in Del Cerro as a night watchman patrolling the beach. And it was when one of the shifts ended that a colleague approached him and asked if he was okay. Enzo just told him that he was tired from working all night and that it was normal. But his colleague told him something was wrong. And talking a bit more, Enzo told him that he had been filling in on Flores Island. This colleague told him not to be scared, but that while he was on patrol, he could clearly see a little girl following him closely from behind. Enzo automatically realized that Erika had followed him. That little girl was now attached to him. Little by little, Erika appeared to him again, first in dreams and then when he was awake. Enzo could no longer stand the situation and made the decision to resign, as no one believed him. He called his cousin Chechu to ask if he knew of any work away from the sea. Chechu mentioned that some of his cousins on his mother's side were involved in sugar cane cultivation. After a few calls, Enzo went to work in Cerro Largo, far away, now from the coast of Uruguay. The problem is that nothing changed. Erika kept appearing to him. Sometimes she would talk to him, and other times she would just look at him. By this time the boy was very nervous, and he didn't know how to solve this. He wanted to get rid of that girl who was tormenting him. He started taking pills to be able to sleep, and still he found it difficult. That's why he requested the night watchman position to guard the property at night. As he walked through the plantation, Erika frequently appeared to him, speaking and asking for his help. Enzo pleaded with her to leave him be, saying he had done all he could to assist her, that he was no longer a sailor, nor the lighthouse man she was supposed to take care of. To please leave him alone? But the girl kept asking him for help and told him that she was now alone, and with him she was desperate. He sought help from healers, parents, and various religions. He even went to Brazil seeking help, but to no avail. It was at a time when he entered a Christian church. They thought it was not the soul of a girl, but a demon who wanted to take his soul. Because of this, they repeatedly bathed him in holy water, accompanied by prayers. But even so, Erika continued to be by his side. Enzo could not stop seeing her, and the little girl kept asking for help. Enzo wrote a letter to his cousin, and this is what it said. Dear cousin, I ask for your forgiveness. I trust you so much that I dare to confess everything to you, to tell you how bad I am and that I can't take it anymore. Nobody could help me. Nobody knows what's happening to me. Nobody believes me. And there are times when I think I'm crazy. You know what happened to me from the beginning, and you know it's true. About this thing that pursues me and gives me no rest. The truth is, I can't take it anymore. I wanted to thank you for the great help you gave me with this job. As I mentioned before, I wanted to reiterate in this letter, I'm not using the phone, and I thought this was a good way to greet you. Now that I've asked for the night shift at the plantation, it's a bit better. At least I can get some sleep and eat. And at night, well, you know how it is. Nothing changed. In fact, everything is worse. I can't take it anymore, you know? As darkness falls, despair sets in. I get very nervous. Here. Your cousins treat me very well, and I'm really grateful, but they don't understand what's happening to me. They think I'm acting strange, but I'm unsure what to do, cousin. I don't know how to continue. You know, I love you like a brother. And you're the only one who supported me from the beginning. I think my fate is marked. It's cursed since that day I stepped on the island. Sometimes I saw the church, you know, and it gives me a lot of peace, but nothing at all. Keep Erika away. I send you a big hug from a distance, brother, and always I'm going to be grateful for everything you did for me, Enzo. This letter reached Chechu 5 days after learning that his cousin Enzo had died, possibly from the accounts he made that it was written the same day he made that terrible decision. It was one of those nights as a watchman on the plantation that he left his post and in a eucalyptus forest he hung himself, ending his life. Enzo was placed in a niche in the town of Cerro Largo, as due to the pandemic and the restrictions of each country, it was the most convenient. At this point, Chechu enters the story. He is the one who precisely shared this intimate and family story with the channel. He was recently able to visit Enzo at the cemetery. While placing flowers in front of the niche, the cemetery caretaker approached him to greet and introduce himself. A man asked him if he was a relative. Chechu told him yes, he was his first cousin. He also asked him if he was from the area, if he lived near the cemetery or the boy's family. To which he replied no, that he and his family are from Maldonado and that he was just passing through here visiting his cousin's grave. This caretaker, his name was Zapican, a typical Charuan name, asked him please that before leaving to come by, that he wanted to talk to him. He probably thought it was to offer him some maintenance or arrangement to the grave for a few pesos, since no one was nearby to take care of it and keep it tidy. The thing was that Chechu, after saying goodbye to his cousin, went to Zapican's office. The man initially offered him water for the thermos, and while he was heating the water, he began to speak in a rather serious tone. Look, kid, I've been here for 40 years, and I've seen a lot of things. I know what lives and what doesn't. There are things that are hard to explain, and I keep them to myself, but something like this has never happened to me. It breaks my heart to see your cousin's daughter who comes to visit him every other night and stays a long time in front of the niche. The man described her, and it was exactly as Enzo had told Chechu on several occasions about Erika's appearance. Chechu explained the whole situation to the man, and then he understood what was happening. Then he told him to stay calm, that he was going to say a series of prayers that he knew to be able to help that girl to find peace and move away once and for all. He also told him that Enzo is not there. It's just his body and nothing more than that. His soul is already on the other side. Enzo, a normal boy, a lover of the sea, a sailor at heart with many dreams to achieve, perhaps to be a captain one day. This island made him give up everything and move away from his dreams. This cursed island that trapped thousands of souls for a century. This time it took the soul of this man, Enzo, whose only mistake was wanting to help the souls of Flores Island.